All right, so let's start this broadcast with some breaking news that has just come in, where the Israeli military has launched a new wave of attacks targeting missile systems and storage sites in western Iran. This is what the Israelis are claiming. The strike near the police headquarters in Tehran has wounded a number of Iranian policemen. So this, of course, is the latest bit of information that has come in, where the Israelis have now said that they've started yet another wave of attacks on Iran. They claim that they are targeting predominantly missile systems and storage sites. But one of those Israeli bombs has landed at a police headquarters in Tehran, resulting in injuries to a number of policemen at this moment. Let's also now listen to what the Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu has to say on this.
Dear citizens of Israel, we are on the 6th day of Operation Am Kalavi, with the strength of a lion. We launched this operation to eliminate two existing threats to the state of Israel, the nuclear threat and the threat of ballistic missiles. We are progressing step by step toward removing these threats. We control the skies over Tehran. We are striking the Ayatollah regime with tremendous force. We are targeting nuclear facilities, missiles, command centers, and symbols of the regime.
All right, now joining us in the broadcast from Washington, D.C., we've got Professor Peter Kuznick, who's a professor of history and also director of the Nuclear Studies Institute at the American University. Professor Kuznick, thank you very much indeed for speaking to us here on WION.
Glad to be with you.
Right, now, according to information that has come, this is a report by the Wall Street Journal, where it is now being said that the number of interceptors that the Israelis have in their possession at this moment, and also what the Americans can supply, seems to be depleting. We at this point of time do not know as to how many missiles the Iranians have in their arsenal. Which way do you think this war is headed?
I think this could drag on for weeks and possibly even longer. Both sides are depleting their arsenals. The Israelis have been striking at the centrifuge production facilities as well as the missile production facilities, and they've been taking out Iran's air defense systems. But Israel also has a finite number of air defense systems. They've got a layered air defense. They've got their Iron Dome, and they've got their Iron Beam, and they've got David Sling and Arrow 2 and 3. But Iranian missiles are getting through. We thought at the start of this fighting that Iran had between 2,000 and 3,000 of these missiles. We know that that number has been depleted. Several hundred have already been used, and we don't know. We never knew for sure how many Iran had. But the number of missiles that Iran has been launching toward Israel has been going down in recent days.
That's true.
The assumption, which we might be wrong, is that Iran's supply is is more finite than we thought, maybe more limited than we thought. But that could be overturned in a minute. So Israel is vulnerable. Iran is even more vulnerable because the Iranians have little control over the skies, and the Israelis are bombing at will in much of Tehran.
Right. Now, the American President Donald Trump, there's a lot of speculation as to what role the United States of America is playing in this war from behind the scenes. Now, Trump has gone on and record and said that he's still yet to make a decision on whether to join this war or not. Considering it is day 6 of this war, what do you think is holding the American president back?
Trump has joined this war from the very beginning. He not only knew and okayed the Israeli attack, he also has been helping shoot down the incoming Iranian missiles. He also has been providing intelligence, other support, vetoing resolutions at the United Nations. So the United States is very much involved. But the United States could get more involved because we knew from the beginning that Israel did not have the capability to destroy the most important Iranian nuclear facility at Fordo. That only the United States, with its bunker buster bombs, the 30,000-pound, 20-foot-long bombs, could do so. And it wouldn't take one bomb, it would take multiple bombs going down the same hole deeper and deeper each time. Trump loves using big bombs. He did so against Syria during his first term. And I think that Trump is itching for an excuse. So far, Iran has not given him an excuse. But what I fear is Mossad pulling a false flag operation and attacking a U.S. facility in the area, making it look like it was an Iranian attack. And then Trump would say, oh, well, now the United States has been attacked and we have to come in. I hope that instead of that, there's a lot of pressure on Trump from a big part of his MAGA base. The part that's been mobilized by Tucker Carlson, by Steve Bannon, by Tulsi Gabbard and others, and they are opposed to U.S. getting involved in this because they know that the war was begun based on a lie. And they've seen that before, just like the U.S. invasion of Iraq was based on a lie in 2003 that Iraq was developing weapons of mass destruction, which it wasn't. This idea that Iran was dashing toward a nuclear bomb is also palpably false. And U.S. intelligence has been saying that. U.S. intelligence says Iran gave up its bomb program in 2003 and has not reestablished it. It has been enriching uranium, but that's because the United States pulled out of the Iran nuclear deal, the JCPOA, under Trump in 2018. And so at that point, after that, Iran started increasing the limits.
Right.
But we need to get back into some semblance of that deal.
Right. We'll talk about the MAGA voter base of Donald Trump in just a bit, but I want to draw your attention to what the Iranian Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei a little while back in his address to the nation said that Iran will not surrender to American threats. He in fact went on to state that if America gets involved, there could be irreparable damage that it could suffer. Now, considering that Washington had been dangling this carrot on and off of negotiations, and then Donald Trump saying that Iran must surrender unconditionally, this is essentially, saying that there are negotiations, but those negotiations are the only demand that's being put forth by the Americans is that there has to be an unconditional support by the Iranians. And now the Iranian leader says that that is never going to happen. In your assessment, what does this brinkmanship lead to?
We saw that demand for unconditional surrender in 1945 in Japan, and that prolonged the war when it could have ended without the use of atomic bombs. The Japanese were not going to surrender unconditionally. Iran is not going to surrender unconditionally. And so there's not been an honest negotiation. From the beginning, the United States insisted that Iran not enrich any uranium, zero enrichment. As a signatory to the NPT, the Non-Proliferation Treaty, Iran has the right to enrich uranium. Under the original deal, it was enriching to 3.67%. That could be easily monitored. The IAEA said that Iran was sticking to that. They began enriching to higher levels after the U.S. blew up the Iran nuclear deal. So the Iranians have made clear they are willing and happy to give up their nuclear program in return for lifting of sanctions and for peaceful resolution. It is not Iran, and it's not an existential threat. Netanyahu lied by saying that Israel faces an existential threat. What worries me about that, and from the Israeli mindset, if they really believed that Iran represented an existential threat, that would justify Israel using its nuclear weapons to wipe out the Fordo nuclear facility.
Right.
So far, there's no indication that they're planning to do that. I'm not saying that I have any evidence that they're planning to, but the logic of saying this is an existential threat would make that a logical assumption. I sure, of course, hope that doesn't happen, just as I hope that Iran never gets a nuclear weapon. I mean, that would be also madness. What would happen then is the United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Turkey would follow suit. We'd have nuclear anarchy throughout that region, which is a tinderbox under the best of circumstances. So we need a diplomatic negotiated solution that takes into consideration all the countries' legitimate concerns, including Israel's security concerns, which are also legitimate. But Israel has become a pariah nation, with what it's doing in Gaza, which has appalled the whole world, international conscience, and now with starting this illegal, immoral, unprovoked attack against Iran.
Absolutely. Professor Kuznick, do continue to stay on with us. Meanwhile, let's get some breaking news that's just come in. This, of course, is a statement by the Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu. So Benjamin Netanyahu is thanking the American President Donald Trump for standing by the state of Israel and for the support that the United States has been offering in defending the Israeli skies. This is the Israeli Prime Minister. Remember, he started off this war with his Operation Rising Lion, and he's now thanking the American president. We still do not know if Donald Trump will, of course, jump on the bandwagon as the Israeli Prime Minister is hoping that he would in an offensive on Iran. But the fact is, the American president has been backing the Israeli Prime Minister, and that's pretty clear right from day one. Let's listen in to what Netanyahu have to say.
I want to thank President Trump, a great friend of Israel. I thank him for standing by us, and I thank him for the support the United States offers us in defending Israel's skies. We speak constantly, including last night. We had a very warm conversation. I want to thank President Trump for the support.
All right, so that, of course, is a statement by Netanyahu. Let's get Professor Kuznick to come in. He's, of course, joining us from the United States of America. Professor Kuznick, I want you to weigh in on this exchange that the American President Donald Trump had with the reporters when he was asked about the assessment that was given out by Tulsi Gabbard, saying that Iran, according to her assessment, was not developing nuclear weapons, for which Donald Trump retorted by saying he doesn't care what Tulsi Gabbard says, considering that she's the head of the intelligence in the United States. Why doesn't the American president trust his own people of his own administration?
Because Trump does not care about the truth. Trump cares about power, brutality, cruelty. We see what he's doing in the United States, and he's doing the same thing globally. He said he wanted to be a peacemaker. Well, that's very, very laughable. That's a joke. Trump is a warmonger. And he's in bed with Netanyahu. Netanyahu has been warning that Israel has been warning that Iran is on the verge of getting a nuclear weapon since the early 1990s, since
Absolutely.
1992. And so this is not anything new. Tulsi Gabbard is opposed to U.S. interventions around the world. She's a military veteran. She knows what war is. She put out a warning a few days ago, said that we're closer to nuclear war than we've ever been. She issued that from Hiroshima. And so she understood. Now, she had the intelligence when she put that out, a 3.5-minute video, she had intelligence that this war was likely to begin. And she put out this very, very powerful warning. So, but Trump is a very different species. He's, the Washington Post cataloged more than 30,000 lies that Trump told during his first term in office. He doesn't care about the truth.
Right.
And so, so that he and Netanyahu are in bed, they're two of the same kind of bullies who've got these militaries that are very powerful and very dangerous to world peace.
Right. Now, we were talking a bit about MAGA as to how Donald Trump's voter base was enthralled by the fact that Trump was talking about putting America first, of ensuring that the United States does not get embroiled in these forever wars abroad. But Tucker Carlson, as you brought up his name, he did an interview of Ted Cruz, one of those Republican leaders who's gunning for America's involvement in the war that is unfolding in the Middle East at the moment. And when Ted Cruz was asked, what is the population of Iran or what is the ethnic composition of Iran, he had absolutely no idea about it. What is it about American politicians who are keen on waging a war on a nation but seem to have absolutely no idea what the nation is about?
It's really upsetting that the Israeli lobby, led by AIPAC, has so much influence in the U.S. Congress. And this is bipartisan. This is Democrats and Republicans who are calling for, itching for the U.S. to get involved. They've forgotten what the U.S. involvement looked like in Iraq, in Afghanistan, in Libya. As Robert Gates, the former Secretary of Defense, has said, you know, after those experiences, getting involved in another war there is madness, because it never turns out the way you want it to. And everybody thinks it's going to be quick and clean and easy. But these things go on, as in Afghanistan, for 20 plus years. You know, and then you look at the results at the end, look at Libya now. You know, so yeah, they got rid of Gaddafi, but they have total chaos there. And what's going to happen if they overthrow Khamenei and the theocracy there? I'm not a fan of Khamenei. I'm not a fan of the Ayatollahs. I think they're very repressive. And if the Iranian people rose up and overthrew them and had a democratic revolution, a progressive one, I'd applaud it.
Indeed.
But I don't want to see regime change at the end of it, American bombers. That is not going to have any kind of permanent legitimacy or credibility or staying power. We're just going to create chaos again. That's not going to be the interest of the Iranians, the Israelis, the Americans. We need a regional summit that's going to actually reflect everybody's security interests. We need peaceful development. We need guaranteeing security. Well, I'd love to see regime change, and I think the place we need the regime change is Israel right now.
I think you've made some very important points there. Thank you very much indeed, Professor Peter Kuznick, for joining us and getting his dark perspective there.
Thank you for having me.
For all the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.